Okay, let's jump right into this explainer. Look, we all love the idea of remote work, right? But the reality, it often serves up a pretty heavy dose of unseen everyday stress. Today, we're skipping the generic advice. Instead, we're going to look at how to clinically manage that anxiety, build a rock-solid foundation of meditation, and roll out some literally game-changing mindfulness hacks built specifically for the modern remote professional. So, be honest with me for a second. Have you checked your work email from bed today? Maybe you had one eye open, screen brightness totally blinding you, and the coffee wasn't even brewing yet. Yeah, we know the feeling all too well. Your home is now the office. What used to be your personal sanctuary has basically become your boardroom. And it's that complete lack of physical boundaries that's exactly what breeds this heightened daily anxiety. Because when the laptop is just sitting right there on the nightstand, mentally switching off feels almost impossible. You see, we're constantly sold this fantasy of the ideal remote setup. Ultimate flexibility, total peace, maybe working from a sunny patio. But the actual lived experience? It's usually a chaotic blur of endless notifications, overlapping responsibilities, and this creeping anxiety. This massive gap between our sunny expectations and the boundaryless reality we actually live in, that's a one-way ticket straight to burnout. So let's get into section 1, decoding your anxiety and understanding that blur. We're going to rely on some fantastic insights from Journey Online to really unpack these modern stressors. Here's the core of it. Dealing with anxiety requires acknowledging that your boundaries have completely blurred. This is an absolutely vital perspective shift. When you feel that tightness in your chest at 8 p.m., you need to realize something right now. This is not a personal failure. You aren't doing remote work wrong. It's actually a completely natural biological response to the total collapse of your work-life boundaries. And honestly, it really all comes down to the number one. Single space. When your office, your gym, your dining room, and your bedroom are all compacted into one room, your brain completely loses the geographic cues it used to rely on to shift gears. And this just compounds day after day after day. Your brain is desperately trying to compartmentalize in a space that physically doesn't allow it to. Moving on to section 2, the meditation foundation. Let's look at some accessible steps for inner peace and see how the Inner Peace Fellowship provides a clinical intervention to really anchor our mental health. Now let's demystify this word right out of the gate, okay? Meditation is simply the practice of focused concentration aimed at bringing the mind to a state of calm. That's it. It's not about abstract philosophy. You don't need to sit on a mountaintop, and you definitely don't have to completely clear your mind of all thoughts. It is just an accessible, highly practical tool to actively manage daily stress, even when your remote environment feels like pure chaos. The Inner Peace Fellowship breaks this whole thing down into 3 super accessible steps. First, find a dedicated quiet space. Look, even if it's literally just a specific corner chair, claim it, make it yours. Second, focus entirely on your breath to ground yourself physically. And third, observe your thoughts without judgment. So when your mind inevitably wanders to that unread Slack message, because it will, just notice it and gently pivot right back to your breath. When you do this, an intimidating practice suddenly becomes a really achievable part of your daily routine. All right, section 3, tiny hacks for professionals. Here are 7 strategies from Neurovisor to help pick up the pace and integrate fast-paced mindfulness into our crazy days. If you visualize a typical remote workday, it's actually pretty alarming. We endure this massive 85% block of continuous, uninterrupted screen time. That sliver of 15%, that's our missing mindfulness. Reclaiming just that 15% with tiny habits is the biological key to changing your stress response and stopping anxiety dead in its tracks. So, here is your rapid-fire survival toolkit from Neurovisor, specifically meant for the gaps between those endless video calls. First, schedule 2-minute micro breaks. Practice sensory grounding. Literally just feel your feet on the floor. Commit to single tasking instead of juggling 10 browser tabs. Reclaim those tech-free lunches. Use stretch intervals to release physical tension. Create transition rituals, like actually shutting your laptop and walking out of the room. And finally, visual resets. Look 20 feet away for 20 seconds. These are tiny actions, but I promise you they have a massive impact. Which brings us to section 4, reclaiming your mental space and taking back control. We've laid all the groundwork, now it is time to bring it all together. It all comes down to this. You have to reclaim your mental space by turning these tiny hacks and meditation steps into your daily remote work armor. The big takeaway from this explainer is that you have immediate practical tools at your disposal right now. You absolutely do not have to be a victim of the blur. Build your armor, organize your mental space, and proactively protect your peace of mind. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one very direct question to think about. Out of everything we just covered, which tiny hack will you use to reclaim your space tomorrow? Seriously, you don't need to do all 7. Just pick one tool to break the blur and take back your day. Commit to it tomorrow morning. Thank you so much for joining me, and here is to a much more mindful remote workday.